How do you do it after that moment of privilege? Pledge allegiance.
To the flag
Flag.
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please stand for a moment of silence for recently deceased firefighters and first responders, particularly our own Assistant Chief, Chris Tracy. Please remain standing. Chief, would you read?
Yep. So this is a message from the fire department chaplain, and I asked the chairwoman for the privilege of introducing it into the record by reading it aloud. To the Fairfield Fire Department community from Chaplain Alita Ward. The loss of a loved one admired and needed is a deep sorrow. The death of one whose life touched so many others is a profound grief. Chief Tracy was all of this, admired, loved, and cherished. His impact on the department was extraordinary. His life was important, and his death is incomprehensibly painful. Whether you were privileged to know him personally or to work with those who knew him, Chief Tracy's life was connected to yours by the bonds of a shared calling. His loss is everyone's loss. The grief from a loss like this can be complicated, with emotions and reactions that run the gamut. Please know that I am here as chaplain to listen, to counsel, or pray with anyone who needs a few minutes to simply process with someone who cares. My prayer today and in all the days to come is for Chief Tracy's family, for all who loved him, and for each one of you. Chief Tracy is now held forevermore in the arms of love. May the same love uphold each of you this day and always. And in God's peace, Reverend Alita Ward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to be seated. You all have a copy of the minutes that I need a motion to approve.
I have a
Change.
change,
Okay.
it's a minor one, either Andrew cloned himself or we got a typo because he's mentioned twice that the president. And with that change, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Yes, I see what you mean. Second. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Approved. Couple of things. First, the services for Assistant Chief Tracy. The wake, you'll be getting an email from Sheila tomorrow so that you'll have it in writing, but the wake is this Tuesday, the 14th, from 3 to 8 at Spear Miller. And the funeral is Wednesday at 2 p.m. at Trinity Episcopal. And so I just wanted to note that for everyone. Sheila was thorough enough to catch that our phrasing on the study resolution could be better said, and I'm usually really good at it, and I really blew it this time. So an updated draft is on the agenda for your consideration under old business, and you have a copy of it in front of you. And Liam, I emailed a copy of it to you. So that will come up later. The other thing that will come up later or we can do it now under my report. We have 2 tests that are, we will have the results on, both for lieutenants and assistant chiefs. And Michael, we approve all promotions. And for lieutenant assistant chief, we don't do interviews. We just take the test results, unlike the proofs. And those results should be available to us the week of the 20th. And it's operationally better for the department if we don't wait till our meeting. So we'll have a Zoom meeting with only that on the agenda, is those 2 votes. And we want to work out what the best schedule is for the commissioners that are present so that we're sure we have one. And it'll be a 10-minute meeting in all probability. With that, I'm done, and Chief, you're up.
Sure. Okay, I have half a dozen items that I want to bring to your attention. First, we have been going through or started the budget process. We moved what is selectmen last week, and the budget was approved as submitted and transmitted to the Board of Finance. We have a hearing next Wednesday night with the Board of Finance. I understand the meeting last night went to 1 o'clock in the morning, so hopefully I'm not that deep into the agenda for next week. We have in that budget there is not a position that we had talked about previously for an additional fire inspector because of the pending arbitration award. But there is the increase of staffing here at the fire school, changing a part-time admin support or training coordinator position to a full-time, and that will be before the Board of Finance next week. Total overall budget increase is currently just around 1%. However, that does not include any wage settlement. So that will change significantly the wage, and any arbitrated award will be, it is captured in a contingency account and will be added into the budget once the award is made. And just an update on the arbitration process. The lawyers will have completed their briefs based on the arbitration hearings, and those briefs are due on Wednesday. No, the 14th. Is that
Tuesday?
Tuesday. Briefs are due on Tuesday, and then there is an opportunity for both sides to review the other's briefs, respond to those briefs, and then, and I don't know what the time frame will be. It's typically 30 days for that, and then it will go to the arbitration panel, which will have another 30 days in order to complete their work and issue a determination. So we're talking somewhere around, and Firefighter Crawford, correct me if I'm wrong, if you've heard differently, but I would guess May 15th is probably a reasonable target date. 30 days from the 14th for, back and forth, and then 30 days after that.
Yeah.
So I would expect mid-May is the earliest we'll see a result of that. Other issues, the capital budget, we did get approved for several pieces of equipment, and including a $980,000 fire pumper. We're in process. The deputy will probably be talking about that, or no. So we have a purchase order in for that, but also a command car and a staff car, as well as other items in our capital budget. We had, and I know that we have talked a lot about the hiring process, and we need to schedule and confirm the dates. Oh, no, we have those dates for 3 dates in April, I think beginning on the 11th, for entry-level testing. This is to take people off of the established list from the last testing process, which was March of 22, and conduct local interviews. One of the challenges that we have, and there is about 15 fire departments statewide that participate in this testing consortium. So we hire a third-party contractor that develops the test, and they now allow candidates to take the test electronically. So, the folks are doing it in their home, and then the results of those are processed, and those who pass are given the opportunity to take an oral, also done virtually. And all the security measures that they can all be one device. There's got to be a camera watching the candidate participating, as well as the screen being active. And they have worked out, we're satisfied with the security measures they've taken. The problem that we have is we only test every 2 years. And from a recruiting perspective, it's very difficult, and we've all had the experience, and someone says, hey, I'm interested in becoming a firefighter. When do I take the test? A week after we close out the last test. And it's like, you have to wait 2 years. And, you know, in our generation, you kind of lived your life around that. In this generation, I'm moving on to something else. And, I'm looking for other opportunities. So we explored the idea, and we had a meeting today with the consultant of continuous testing, so that there is the shortest period of time between recruitment, interest, test. So we're capturing people who express interest, getting them right into the process. It doesn't mean that there's a job immediately available in any one of the 15 towns, but we are not losing that person to other employment, other public safety, or other fire departments. It sounds very promising. There is 2 ways to approach this. One is absolute continuous testing, that any time of the day, any day of the week, you'd be able to go in and take it. From a recruiting perspective, that's hard to do, because if there's no deadline, there's no impetus to, rally a recruitment effort. So we're focusing on once every 4 months, so 3 times a year. A candidate would be eligible, or the testing cycle would be open, and then we can recruit around those dates. They'd be known in advance, and we would be able to, capture some of the interest that exists out there in a very timely way. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'll report back as we proceed down this path. The other part of that is, and we've talked about CPAT, and state of Connecticut runs a candidate physical abilities test. You're only allowed to go, you're precluded from going to the Connecticut Fire Academy recruit program unless you've passed a physical abilities test, baseline physical capacity. And the bar is not very high. It's not easy, but it's not compared to what they do for PT every day at the academy, this is a baseline fitness test. Although Alex Plistas will say that it was very hard. The challenge is the state of Connecticut runs an outdoor testing facility. So you can't do it when it's rainy, you can't do it when it's cold, you can't do it when it's hot. That creates, challenges. And we've had candidates that were currently employees fly to Florida to take the test in Florida because it wasn't available in the state of Connecticut when she needed it. So we are working with a private company that will operate indoor year-round CPAP testing in North Haven. So this will provide us continuous testing for entry level, as well as, essentially continuous testing opportunities for physical abilities tests. So I think that ties in with the discussion that we've had here with the commission on improving diversity, eligibility, and recruitment efforts. So more to come on that, but I wanted to give you an update.
Sure.
Yeah.
Before you go on, we're going to have a conversation about how we manage lists
Yes.
and
Yeah.
interview process.
Yeah.
It's
So
going to get complicated.
So what we do is we take the list from that process, and 400 names long. And because it's a statewide test, and believe me, that number is way down from decades ago when it was thousands of people. So what we have done is that list is 400 names long. We take the top 30 names and we conduct local interviews with the commission and members of the department, and then establish our own local hiring list. Means that out of that 30 that we interviewed, maybe 15 or 20 might be excluded from further consideration, and we have a list of 10 or 15. Now with continuous testing, that list, the grand list will constantly be refreshed. Doesn't impact us, because once we have that local list, it's established. once we exhaust that list, as we have now, we will go back to the grand list, which will have been continually refreshed with new names added in. So I think that we're okay, but we'll have to work through the details of that to make sure that it's acceptable.
We just need to.
Yep.
work through it.
Because right now, if you get your EMT certification mid-cycle, you can move from the non-EMT list to the EMT list. And if we went to the list today, it could include somebody who's been added. So this is not necessarily a new company. So more to come on that, but I think it's a positive development. And lastly, I know that you saw the Southport volunteers join us last month. One of the things that we have been working with the leadership of Southport Volunteer Fire Department is their replacement of some rolling stock that they have. They have a tactical response vehicle, which is really a everything and anything that they might need is in this, as a glorified bread truck. Well, it is not held up very well, and they're looking to replace it. So we've been working with them, trying to hone their mission and what is their responsibilities on a day-to-day basis, as opposed to just during big storms for pumping out basements and responding to wires down. So we're having very detailed but meaningful discussions about them. And one of the areas that we're pursuing is providing some protection for firefighters. We've talked about the most dangerous environment that our firefighters respond to is on 995 in the Merrick Parkway. Bar none, ask anybody in uniform, with the most dangerous environment, they'll say standing up on 995 on a sunny day. Because people don't slow down for accidents and they're driving fast on a snowy day, rainy day, people are slowed down already. Sunny day is probably the most dangerous time to be up there because they do not respect the slow down, move over law. So we're looking at maybe some arrow boarding and crash attenuators that might be part of the mission package for Southport volunteers. But I'm very encouraged that we have had some very good discussions with them when they buy this new vehicle, that it will have a defined purpose and mission that will make life safer for everybody. So we will continue to update you on that as we proceed. I'm very encouraged by it. And that concludes my report.
Questions? Okay, Deputy Chief, you're up.
So yesterday, a Kerma investigator looked at the fireboat, which is in the bay here. We've yet to get his report, of course, but we're looking into what we may do in the meantime. Chief Case is looking into rentals possibly for when the boating season starts so that we do have a footprint out on the water. And we'll let you know more as we get closer to those dates. Westport moved into the ECC on March 1st. We've been working, a bunch of Fairfield members have been working on changes necessary since it's actually a new CAD that's being deployed. CAD is a computer-aided dispatch system. It's the same company, but instead of the one that we had, they made a regional version of it that can handle more than one municipality. So since it's a new CAD, we had to make sure that all the data was run into the back end of it. And, there's been some little, connections that weren't there, things for our status boards and our iPads and the apparatus and our mobile devices and also some of the data wasn't there, our paging capabilities and things like that. So it's still a work in progress on our side, but it seems to be going smoothly. The dispatchers are rising to the occasion and they're excellent as always. Hopefully any of their concerns though will be allayed as they come. And we're trying to work with them at least when we hear of issues where they need help. Let's see. Radio project. The infrastructure has been ordered from Motorola Norcom. The first phase is ordering the infrastructure for our 3 sites, which 3 sites that we need to have the antennas at our police headquarters with that big antenna you see behind there. Roncalli Hall, which is actually Bridgeport, but it's Sacred Heart University facility, which already has our existing antennas on it. And also Woodhouse Road, there's a private site where we had to rent space at. So once this equipment comes, hopefully with supply chain, we're not sure. Maybe it comes in the late summer, we're thinking. They build the racks, and this is the infrastructure that what it actually does is takes the signals and, bounces it, sends it to the antenna or picks it up from the antenna and sends it to our consoles and all, and our fire engines and our handy talkies. Also, there's so that, we have back-end capability in case that goes down. There's also microwave dishes that are going to go at each site, which are going to link up with Troop G and go into the Connecticut radio system that way also. So that's the backup. So it's a very complicated system. We have a great company that's Motorola knows what they're doing, and Norcom knows what they're doing. They're very good. So we hope the project.
No, do they know what they're doing? No comment, no comment, okay, no comment.
We're very excited about this project, and we'll tell you more as it goes along. The police department are the main, the main interfaces, but the fire department are very involved also in this project, since it is the police fire system. So we are on all the calls and on all the site visits, et cetera. In regard to the chief mentioned the new engine. We were approved, I think last week. So the rec is put in, we're waiting for a PO, then we need to sign a contract. And we're hoping this thing moves through the machinery in town, because there's about a 28-month delivery time. At least that's what's in the contract. So maybe even if they do a little better than that, but 28 months, it's never that. Well, usually, you might get, 14, 16. Now it's 28 that they're talking. And this is for all manufacturers. We've been talking to other departments who are ordering other brands and whatever. It's really tough.
We will be ordering the next one before this one comes in.
Yeah.
It's just, we order them every 2 years.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
Yeah. And we do have a plan. I don't know, for the new commissioners, we do have an apparatus replacement plan. So we do something where it's a justifiable, predictable cycle. It's not just, oh, gee, we need, some new fire engines. We need 3 of them now because we haven't gotten some in a while. We have a predictable plan, which where finance has they've had since 2015 or 17, I forget. But they've had, so they always know what's coming down the pike. Let's see. Chief mentioned the budget process. Our new firefighter, probationary firefighter Pichette, who's he was put on the job, I think, right after our last meeting. We had another candidate who we were supposed to put on that day, and he declined. He went to Stanford Fire Department. He got an offer, so he went there. We are starting to process another candidate, and we wanted to have him start at the Stanford Academy because he missed the Connecticut Fire Academy start date that was in the past. The union has objected to that, so we're speaking with them, and we will not proceed unless we, get the green light as far as that's concerned. Promotional exams, the chief mentioned. So today was the assistant chief oral exams. Monday is the lieutenant oral exam. So hopefully we'll have the list to you as soon as we hear, and then we can schedule our Zoom meeting. In regard to emergency management, the EMPG, the Emergency Management Performance Grant that we filled out in January, was approved and awarded. They were very quick this year. So that gives us $30,000, which subsidizes our emergency management budget. The initial training course started on March 4th. I think Norma's here, so she may talk more about it, but it looks like a very healthy class, and she'll tell you even how deep our bench is even with them. So it's very, very impressive, the amount of people that CERT attracts, and it gives us more and more people that we can use, that trained, vetted people that we can use during emergencies, but also that can help for emergencies in their own neighborhood, because they've got a little more training than the average person. And that concludes my report for tonight.
Questions?
Yes, you said who's doing the investigation on the boat?
Well, Kerma is the insurance company.
Oh, okay.
For the town, Kerma, Connecticut,
No, I'm good with that answer.
Gloria, yeah, so it's their point. We did have, the police department did an initial investigation just to see if it was foul play or anything like that. We have camera video. You can just see that during the storm, the stern of the boat just kept going down and down and down, and then eventually it just went under to the starboard side. So but we know that there was no human intervention, so they're looking for what it is. We had Sea Tow came, towed it out, recovered it. We put it on our trailer with mechanics. When we trailed it back to the garage in here where nobody has touched it other than investigators. So Chief Case is looking towards what we can do with that hull, talking to HR, seeing whether we get money for this. One of the steps was that Kerma had to come down and, investigate it themselves. And so we'll get a report. Yes.
So, I'm sorry. Okay, so, the firefighter candidate that, is in the middle of it, my words, not yours, because they can only go to Stanford Fire Academy to, post the state one. What's the position around that? Is it just not up to the standard? Because we're talking about filling spots, and we got more body here.
So I'll speak to that. So there is language in the contract. So we have hired firefighters that have attended other academies other than the Connecticut Fire Grant, lateral transfers. The union president, Bill Tuttle, was one, came from Massachusetts. Justin Crawford behind you came from New Haven. We hired a firefighter from Charleston, South Carolina. So we have hired lateral transfers that have been certified in other academies and have reviewed those academies if there is a element of the Connecticut Fire Academy certification program that was missing in theirs. It's not a complete one-to-one match. We backfill with training locally, and that's been established. This will be the first time we have sought to send an employee to an academy other than at the Connecticut Fire Academy. There was contract language that we disagree with the union's interpretation of. The contract language says that it used to say probation runs for 1 year following employment. And 1 cycle ago or 2 cycles ago, it was changed to be probation begins after, and it runs 1 year following completion of the Connecticut Fire Academy recruit program. So the question is that language operative and restrictive, or is the reference to the CFA incidental? The union's taken a position that it is not its filed a grievance, to prohibit or to object to us sending the candidate to Stanford. I and the union president are going to meet on Monday to see if we can come to a mutually agreeable resolve. From the fire department's perspective, we know that we have 4 new firefighters that at least 4 that will come out of the arbitration process, but potentially 12. We know that their reasonable projection for retirements next year is somewhere between 4 and 6 vacancies were created. That's 9 positions plus this one would make it 10. We know that the fall fire academy class maxes, they limit the head count to 70, no more than 70. So we know that that is a challenge. And fire departments say, oh, we're going to send a dozen people, and then by the time the final count is made, it's less than that. But we've had upwards of 92 registrations for a class limit of 70. I'm concerned about our ability to get recruits through the academies, and they only run in September and in February. They run 15 weeks, 15 and a half weeks each. So hopefully the union president and I can come to a mutual agreement.
If you can't, would we lose this candidate possibly, or would he or she hold on till September.
He will know that he has a slot because he's next on our list, that he will have a slot available if he chooses to wait until September. But because he's high on our list, that means he's high on other lists in the consortium. And he comes from the other part of the state.
No, we'll,
Oh, well, no, this is a well, right. So we don't, there's no way. I'm not convinced that he'll be lost to another department. But, obviously, I have an operational goal to make sure that I can get everybody through the 2 academies in next fiscal year.
Thank you, Chris. I'm just learning with these questions. My other question is, the candidate that went to the Stanford Fire Department, do we do any type of like exit interview to say like, hey, why them over us, so we can?
he didn't say, he called me up on the Friday before the Monday he was going to, Friday afternoon. It just said that I've decided, I've had soul searching and I've decided to go there. Now I think he's from the Danbury area, so maybe it was a little easier for him as a commute. Yeah. But he didn't say anything bad about the fire. He seemed to like it when he came around. So, I think if that didn't happen, he would probably have been here and been happy here. So there was nothing untoward that he said, about.
In the rare occasions when we have lost a active employee that is here for a period of time and then goes to another department, we conduct that process to understand, what it was. And it's similar, I have family, we lost a firefighter that went to Danbury, and we conducted an exit interview. He had family there, but he was a volunteer and felt that maybe he would be better working outside of Danbury. And then once he was here, everything kept pulling him back to Danbury, so we went and took a job there. We don't lose a lot of candidates. We don't lose a lot of firefighters following employment. And since we've been here, it's only one. In
Thank you.
7.5 years.
Other questions? Go ahead, Jenny. Question for Deputy Chief, a 2-part question. You indicated you have 3 antennas trying to learn. You have one on Woodhouse Road.
Yes.
Does that mean it's at a private citizen's home? And if so, do we pay that individual rent?
So it's on a piece of property. There's an antenna site there. Somebody owns that land, and I think a few telephone companies lease space and a shack there. And so we're leasing a shack that's there. So it's a facility that's already there for cell phone. The antenna's been up there. So we're just leasing the shack there, and the rate to be, I think it's $3,000 a month. Department out of their budget for this is paying.
Answer, thank you.
And the reason being because they did propagation studies trying to find how they could cover certain areas of town. Like right now, we've had problems with where one of our commissioners lives. So up near the lake. So we have some problems covering that whole valley, Black Rock Turnpike down near the lake. So what we've done is propagation studies, and Motorola did, and they found out that with those existing antenna areas, we needed something else. And Station 5, which would have been great because we own it. Station 5 has an antenna which also has cell phones. We lease out the town leases out to cell phone companies. It would have been great if we could have put there, but kind of needed a little bit more, north or whatever direction that is. I had to get east.
After the meeting, we cut a side deal for like a little bit of spot. It's whole Black Rock Turnpike and Black Rock anywhere. That's the dead spot.
It's a dead
I
spot right
know a guy owns a house there.
We'll talk after the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, other questions? Okay, if that's it,
Is anyone here? I have not heard from Southport.
Nobody on the screen.
No,
Nobody on the screen.
I live on record saying it was great having him here last month.
Yeah.
Awesome.
They indicated they were coming back.
I
So
think
I
they'll
hope
come
we-
back. They're coming back. Oh, 1 for 2.
Right.
Probably me, because I was not here present last month. So
Oh, yeah, that's why they came.
Stratfield.
nobody up on the screen.
Okay, we have not heard from them in a while. Local 1426, are you going to represent them? Thank you. Hello.
For those that don't know me, sorry, I know I'm behind you, so. I'm Justin Crawford. I'm a trustee on, for the Frankfurt Firefighters, 1426. Traditionally, what you probably expect to hear from me is that we're at day 615 without a contract. Stanford Firefighters top step in 2016, it's the same as ours is right now. And we have multiple grievances, but frankly, that's all by the wayside, in the passing of our brother firefighter Tracy. That has hit all of us devastatingly hard. And we are all, coping with that crater of a loss in our lives. This is kind of twilight zone to me personally, because the first time I met Chris Tracy was before the first time I met you for my commission interview. He was still the union president, and he gave the most motivating and powerful speech I've ever heard in my life about the importance of union work, that I was going to be given the opportunity to stand on the shoulders of giants, and that I should never forget what's been done before me, and I owe that to the guys after me. And I wasn't new to the fire service at the time either. I had been involved in political fights in Rhode Island to save my job, and we were merging districts. But he had a very profound impact in showing me the importance of this work. It's what motivates me to do it every day. My members are dealing. The overwhelming pouring in of support from across the state's been very moving. And I've had locals from every corner reach out with their support to us in this time to speak about who Chris Tracy was as a person, as a brother, as a firefighter, and as a labor and political leader. And he was all of those things. So we are in a very weird spot right now, and we are dealing. I just wanted to take the chance to speak about who Brother Tracy was to us and this department. I mean, we're in his school right now. I don't think that's lost on anyone. So thank you. If you ever have any questions, you're more than welcome to.
Who's this school named after?
Captain Joe Elias was one of the pioneers in training and was the training director here. And I don't know for how many years, but was his, one of the first fire school directors at the school here.
Is it anything named after Assistant Fire Chief Tracy here?
Yeah, the neighboring classroom was named after him.
You can see it on the wall.
And his name is on the construction plaque in the front hall.
Reading project, we expand that maybe to just reading what he's done for this place, for our fire department, or if you can represent this, like, I would, I think we have to make through all the formal things. But at some point, we should discuss it to expand that possibly.
I'm not following it.
Just, I mean, if he's got a client, it just sounds like he was a giant of the, I didn't know him. I didn't tell you he was a giant of the man to have a class group, but people can expand and honor something else in his name. Would be, I think, something we should take on as a committee, with the feedback from.
We've had that conversation here with the staff, and specifically about, is that sufficient recognition, or do you, using your words, can we expand on that? And let us come back with some recommendations.
Yeah, that would be good.
I think you speak first, but I would say, like, we don't want to make that decision. We want to support
Yep.
your decision.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry for your loss.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, CERT, Norma.
Yes, good evening, everybody. My main report really is that we have started training our new CERT class, as the deputy mentioned. We actually, starting the class, we have 25 people. We actually had a few more on a waiting list. What's interesting is we have ages in this class from 23 to 75, which is wonderful, and a great representation of different backgrounds, from preschool teachers to people to more. So it's a great class, and it ends on April 1st, which is an odd day to end. Maybe we'll have some kind of celebration related to that. We're also entering a busy activity season for us. We're do a lot relating to crowd and traffic control. We have the Beach Bunny 5K coming up, Memorial Day Parade, half marathon, 4th of July, and PD is doing their annual traffic training for us, which is good. And although it may not immediately seem as though it's related to emergency management, it keeps us on our toes and prepared so that if something does happen in town or someplace where we're sent for mutual aid, we've had practice for these types of things. And that's pretty much it. I did want to also add our condolences and sadness relating to Chris Tracy. Of course, he was very helpful with the CERT program as it began. So we certainly join everyone in their sorrow. Thanks. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Sir? Okay, donations, there are none. Old business, as I said, when we looked at the wording, it really made sense to try to clean it up. And
I haven't gotten a copy of the new word.
it was put on your place as it got moved. Okay, but it got moved to Rob.
Okay. All right.
So, the intention was to keep the language, keep the intent and just clean up the language. And some of that is by using bullets, so it wasn't this long sentence. And so, Commissioner Burke has one because I emailed it to him, but the draft motion is the fire commission, based on growth in the town and the changing nature of structures in Fairfield, recommends a comprehensive evaluation of fire protection and prevention services in Fairfield, Connecticut. The full scope of the study must include administration, including building and personnel requirements, fire marshal, building and personnel requirements, maintenance apparatus and equipment, building requirements, personnel requirements, in-system requirements to support all functions, station requirements, building personnel and locations based on current and expected population shift and growth and the changing nature of physical structures throughout town, i.e. expansion of assisted living, increased number of mid-rise buildings. EMS, fire service, ambulance, best model to serve our community. It's currently outsourced versus creating our own or something else. Building requirements, personnel requirements, and locations. Mutual aid, we have a lot of that, but whether there's a better way, much like we do for the Merritt Parkway, have more automatic for some of the border areas of the town and the volunteer piece. And my copy was where my printer stopped. Roles and utilization of the departments, continuation of shared facilities, continuation of the maintenance of equipment, and support of ongoing training. Recognizing that by fiscal year 24, year-end 24, there will be an increase in the number of firefighters and that the department is planning a study of fire station locations. We recommend that the chief request immediate funding for the location study and request funding for the comprehensive long-range strategic study of the fire service for the next 25 years. I need a second and a motion, a second, and then we can discuss.
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Any discussions? We've talked about this before, so I don't.
Yeah, the only thing that, and it's the same thing I brought up last month.
Yeah.
And I think it was changed, and now I see it going
Okay.
this way again, is that we're looking at getting one study and then going to get funding for another study. And I still think that those two studies need to be combined as one instead of going into two separate studies.
Right.
You know, that the funding should be,
Are you in that?
that we need to go and get additional funds because all that fire station location is also included in here. So I think it should be one comprehensive.
Could you just remind, I think, what are the two studies?
Okay, so I believe the chief has got funding already, correct?
So I have station maintenance funding that I have not got approved to use for a station location study.
You have not got that.
I have the
It's in
funding,
budget.
I have $300,000.
Right.
I have to get concurrence from the purchasing department that it would conform, the use of it for a study would conform with the intent that it was appropriate, or go back and ask for a redefinition of the scope of work. Either way, the money is there. It's just a process to get approval.
But Chief, would you talk, because we've had private conversations about your conversation with some of the vendors relative to doing the location first.
So I would expect that the same firm would do both studies, and we have the capacity to begin the process now. We have,
Yeah.
Can we make antennas and radio communications part of this long option studies that we just talked about 5 minutes ago?
But the radio project is already underway, that
Okay,
studies,
that study's being done?
no,
Good.
it's already done. It's being ordered now, the equipment based on.
Yeah.
the
yeah,
study
that's
done.
complete. That's
But
completed.
anything that would come up would fall under maintenance apparatus and equipment.
Okay,
And nothing would be affected anyway because our stations, the equipment it moved with the stations and our fire trucks have the mobiles, the
It's
portable.
a separate issue.
Yeah, separate issue.
It's already handled. You don't have to worry.
theoretically, but it's not because you move the station and it doesn't.
It's not gonna affect. I thought you have to.
Yeah. The Storcom guy will fill you in on the whole thing. He'll sell you one too.
Commissioner Fetterman down.
No, but I can
Signal is
give you a
townwide.
detailed
All right, let's get off of that, please.
On the radio system.
Let's try to get out of here.
So Commissioner Finneran's job at the Marine Corps was a radio operator, so I have a deep and thorough understanding of how antennas and radios work. What I'm not hearing, and I'm sure, is that if we move a station that has an antenna,
No, the station doesn't have the. antennas.
No, they don't. They're the receivers.
okay, where are the antennas?
So at Station 5, there is a monopole with all of the infrastructure on it. If we close that station and move it somewhere else, the monopole would stay there and still serve the function
Okay,
that's intended.
okay.
We can talk offline about that to make it
Now-
do that.
Chief,
No.
you talked about the first.
So we have
base.
a known deficiency in response time. It's been documented. Our challenge is, moving forward, before we make additional investments in anything, we need to be cognizant of the fact that we have very long response times. And the reason why we need to do the station studies, we have $300,000 this year and we'll ask for it again the next year and the year after that. And I'm spending money on buildings that I'm not confident will be long-lasting locations. We know that Jackman Avenue has an extremely long north to south response district, and a better location is likely to be found out of the study. We know that there's a donut hole in the center of Black Rock Turnpike because, we have Stratfield, we have Greenfield Hill, and we have Jennings Road. Jennings Road, we know, is going to get drawn down to the southern tier of the Commerce Drive development area. And we have simultaneous calls for service. It's anticipated that another unit, another station will be necessary in order to meet the need and the future need and the current response time need. I need to complete that study. I've had conversation with the vendors, and all of this work will be follow on seamlessly if we choose the same vendor. They'll go from station study to all of the other parameters.
But Commissioner, you're asking, can we just do one comprehensive? Yeah.
Yes.
Is that, did we ask that question?
You can do it that way. I will not be able to request funding for that until September or October, and it doesn't get voted on until February of 2024.
You can't start.
So I can start the ball rolling. So this was raised at the commission after the budget process, especially the capital budget process.
So the idea was And my impression from the conversations, which I may have misunderstood, is with you, Chief, was that the one vendor we had been talking to had indicated doing this first.
Yep.
Was a good idea. And that would position us well to then move forward on the rest. And so that's why it's there, and that was my understanding last month too. And if we try to go for the whole, we're delaying any action for 18 months.
And the other part is they're trying to stay away from, the eminent domain option. It's never a good option in any municipality. It's hard enough to move a station. It's hard enough to place a station. The sooner we have the station study done, the sooner we can start looking for commercial or for property availability. Property next to the, Jennings Road Firehouse, we were watching, hoping that it would come on the market because we're pressed for space there. And we missed an opportunity to purchase that property. It would have been a great addition and given us flexibility on Jennings Road. So having the station study done gives us the opportunity. We see a piece of property come on the market, we can act quickly to acquire it if it's in the.
It sounds like we're very far away from any of these decisions, correct?
We are.
Yes.
But if we don't start, we're even further away.
When was the last time we did the fire station or created a new fire station?
1973.
Residents real quick.
That was a Jennings Road was built and they closed, I believe, Tungus Hill. There was a station on Tungus Hill at the time and Jennings Road was built. So that's the last time.
Where Scott Motors is now?
Yeah.
That's where the firehouse was.
Time before that was 1954.
Firehouse Deli.
Don't do all. Yes.
That was our headquarters.
So we're all gonna pull our money and the next firehouse closes, we're gonna create like another deli or something? That was the best investment ever.
A brewery.
Final sandwiches.
Well, it originally became Ron Henry's insurance office, and it was
Yeah.
offices where it became Deli.
Thank you for that.
Brewery.
So Commissioner, back to you in terms of your commentary and proposing an amendment or not.
I like to.
I would have a problem voting yes on this the way it's written.
I asked, are you proposing an amendment?
Yeah. But I don't know where my original wording went when I first created this document. My original wording,
Oh.
the one that.
I have an amendment.
Oh,
Good. Go ahead, Liam.
Okay, in the first sentence after Fairfield, if we could add, in the presence of so many synthetic materials in those structures which burn hotter and faster than natural materials do.
I'd accept that as part of the original language, but I need you to send Sheila the actual words so we capture it exactly as you read it.
Okay,
Okay, I'll accept it and incorporate it into the motion, but Fitterman needs to accept it too because he seconded.
Seconding.
thank you.
Um,
That just goes to that video we saw.
Right.
Some of the
Yeah,
new
no,
people
it's good.
may not
uh,
have seen it. But,
Excuse me, we have two motions, so.
No, I accepted that language into this.
Second, we do
Forget what the protocol is.
Well,
I think as
after-
long as we both accept it, it's okay. We don't have to, we're accepting it as part of our motion.
Second.
and then you can have a discussion on that.
So we're just, so.
We're still in discussion.
We're still in
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to get to
Robert rules.
those language. You don't have the other papers.
No, I don't. Oh. Here's the better grammar version. Right. If we just took this out. So immediate funding, comprehensive long range,
Okay.
and that is included in this.
Okay, you want to make that motion to amend?
Okay, wait a minute. Wait a minute. We have to have a vote now on his, and then I can make a motion.
I was trying to do it. There is,
What you're saying.
guys, there is a way for me to accept a friendly amendment without going through a whole vote, but we'll go through a vote.
Okay, so we are voting on the
Liam's,
amendment that Leon
yes.
made. Okay.
Would you read again, just so everybody's with us?
Sure. And the presence of so many synthetic materials in those structures which burn hotter and faster than natural materials do. And for the new members, we saw a video last year that compared sort of an old fire with natural materials and a new fire with new materials, and after about 2 or 3 minutes, there was the new materials were a conflagration and the old materials were kind of petering out. It was a real stark difference in total fire.
It catches it essentially.
I may have said something.
Excellent addition. Excellent, Liam. Thank you.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Fine. So that's amended. And Commissioner Burke is going to send the exact wording to Sheila. Then, what do you want to do?
So then. I would like to remove in the last paragraph, second to the last line, remove the words for the location study and request funding so that chief requests immediate funding for a comprehensive long-range strategic study of the fire service for the next 25 to 30 years.
Say it again, Commissioner, please.
Sure. We recommend that the chief request immediate funding for a comprehensive, long-range strategic study of the fire service for the next 25 to 30 years.
So what's your original? What's your second? You're making the motion and a second.
So I made that motion.
I'll second it.
The issue I think that we face is whether we think that puts us off for 18 to 24 months in terms of action. Because we have to go through a whole funding cycle to get the money. I understand it. So
That means, do I understand you taking away the word, location study?
Right. So instead of doing two studies, we would just do one study and the location study would be included in the big one.
Thank you. I agree. That's fine.
yeah, but what happens to that is that means we will not do it now. We won't do it till the earliest cycle.
Earliest it could get approved would be February of 24.
Even if you went for special funding.
It won't, they're not going to entertain special funding between, there's a normal funding cycle for capital projects. You submit them for consideration in September. They get reviewed, the waterfall budget gets put together, the preliminary hearings in December, and voting on with the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, RTM. And we just, the $980,000 that was just approved for the pumper was part of that process. The town strongly discouraged, except in an emergency, special appropriation requests.
What's
Which is why I'm
what's the pros
opposed
and
to
cons of each? Let's like,
Okay.
kind of, let's just focus on like pros and cons. I think that would help all of us to crystallize.
So you want to go first? Advocate.
Yeah, the pro part of it is everything gets done in one study. so that the same people that are doing it, because they're, although it most likely would be the same company doing both studies, there's no guarantee that it would be, the same company. So that everything then would be all included together, and people doing the study would have an understanding of exactly what we're looking for. So that's how I'm looking at it.
I'll
Can I-
start.
Can I offer something?
Yep.
So when we go for the station study, we could request an RFP for the entire scope. I can go for an RFP without the money. I can go for an RFP for the entire project to be done in 2 phases. So the
But
award
it
goes
doesn't
to
mean
a
you get
company,
any of the
the award
funds.
goes to a company that is going to do both. However, funding for the station study is preliminary, and then the follow-on, when funding is secured for the rest of it, is phase 2.
How you feeling?
Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Fine,
Yeah, why'd you ask that question?
which question?
Yes, for pros and cons.
I understand, but why?
Why?
Yeah.
So we can understand, we're not getting ourselves in a pickle, right? It's like, it makes sense that we get a comprehensive study, but if this delay is deteriorates and puts us behind the 8 ball that way, which one's worth it?
Well, you have to go
If
to
I
the
could-
Board of
if I-
Financing to get any money, right?
Yeah.
So,
No, we don't have to go for the first 30 to the Board of Finance.
well, he has,
I may or may not. I have the money I made.
he has the money
Change
now,
scope.
he has to justify why he has the money, correct?
So they can turn around and go, no, you're not using that first study.
I agree. In my opinion, use the cash he has right now, because you might not get any more, and they've already appropriated it towards him. Towards the fire department.
That's even more information.
But what
That's right.
you started to talk about, the idea that we need to act and not continue to delay this because the town has ignored it for decades.
Right, if you keep
Yeah.
asking for more, they'll continue, and he has the fire department has $300,000 right now. What would you say, stipend towards us to use these, to do these studies, is that correct?
No,
So the $300,000 was appropriated to do station renovations.
Right.
I would make the argument that station renovations contingent upon the appropriate location of that station as an important ingredient. So I have asked for authorization to spend $30,000 to do the station study. And then the balance of the money, $270,000,
Okay.
would go to renovations as originally intended.
and I like the idea of doing the full RFP, which gets to your point, but allows us to move forward and get the location piece started and in place.
I would,
There's been a demonstrable or a demonstrated need to consider where the stations are located. And it's not one that we can ignore, not one that I can ignore.
It's
And
been
I-
talked about since I was a
Yeah.
kid.
how long do you see that taking?
6 months.
So it positions us for the next budget cycle.
Okay. I see it taking a lot longer.
Hmm?
I see it taking a lot longer.
Yeah,
But
I
that comes, the station study comes from the consultant.
Yeah, I understand, but once you get that station study, even after then, I don't see a, light at the end of the tunnel in my lifetime.
Oh,
That's a whole
yeah,
different
yeah.
question.
Yeah, that's property acquisition, that's construction, that's
Right.
years.
So
But you
if
can't
you have
do it-
$300,000 right now, fine. If you want to earmark $30,000 towards the study, use the other $270,000 towards whatever renovations you see fit, then
Yep.
absolutely, 100%, no problem.
Okay. We're back to you and
So if I withdraw my motion, and if somebody else can make a new motion that includes the RFP. Well, so I will withdraw my motion.
Okay. Yes, because I have the whole,
Oh.
this last paragraph, like the inner
And that's what
printer.
I do before it ends up my.
Okay.
If you want, I can provide Sheila that RFP language, and
Yeah,
sure that it gets included in the minutes.
okay. So why don't we do that? You can add the
Yeah.
RFP language.
And the RFP language says that the entire scope as listed on this will be included and phased as funding is available. Is that okay?
I don't like as funding's
No,
available
I
because,
like the location study more urgently, you know,
well, even on the rest of this is, you know, I don't.
I can't do it. I can't,
no.
well, I can't do it
listen,
with, maybe it's poor
It's a-
choice of words, but
You're not the audience.
yeah, it's poor choice of words. I have to get the funding in order to do the work, so funding has to be available. I'm doing phase one when the funding is available for phase two and asking for funding for phase one, and then asking for funding for phase two.
But our
So
audience,
as money is available.
no, because that is too passive. What we want to say is as,
Soon as practicable.
Language.
yes,
Right now, if there's $300,000.
immediate
available
funding
to
is the
make
language.
our
we
firefighters
use.
Okay.
that much better, that's what I would like to do.
Sorry, what?
As soon as practicable.
No.
Again, they're gonna boot that. It's not
Mhm.
practical. We've got too many budget items being spent. So I think, you know, the original draft was immediate, request immediate funding. All it is a request. That doesn't mean we even expect we're gonna get it, but we're trying to convey the urgency.
Right. Right.
That's the issue here is we as the commission need to convey some urgency to the town that this needs to be addressed. We can't continue to boot it another decade.
Right. Right. It's a recommendation.
So, with that, are we okay
Yeah.
that I can call the question? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes, no?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, and no opposed, it passes. Great.
And then,
Right here, I'd like a motion to amend the new business schedule so that the commission can schedule a special meeting to approve promotion list when available. Can I get a second?
So
Second.
The issue is, Chief, what week do you want it? Everybody's getting to look at calendars. It's gonna be by Zoom and it will be short.
The week of the 20th.
No, March.
March 20th,
March, I'm assuming.
Monday, the 20th.
Sure.
I could do Monday, the 20th.
I will be gone.
Okay. Okay,
It'll all be through Zoom?
It's gonna be
Yes,
through
it'll all
Zoom.
be
You
through
guys
Zoom.
have to be here for this.
so if you want to come on
Is it during the day or the night or?
7 o'clock, you.
Whatever is good for you.
No, that's fine.
Monday, the 20th. It's the only thing I don't have an appointment in yet.
She'll be sending out a Zoom meeting, obviously.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, all that will go out. I'm just trying to get. the
Yeah, no, that
dates.
works. Yeah, that works. I just want to put it in my.
Yeah, we're just trying to figure out, if we pick this there, we're gonna have a quorum.
Yes,
You know,
I'll
or
be
everything.
available.
Okay.
And it's gonna be WebEx like this.
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, we're not planning to do this one in person.
It'll be all of 5 minutes,
A little bit longer, but not much.
5.5.
I doubt that, chief. I wish that was the case.
Okay, that's good. That's the 20th. Great,
Okay.
thank you. Then, and Chief, I'm going to ask you to speak to this next one.
Yep.
There is a act that the chief was aware of. I was starting to work on some stuff relative to the things that we have raised for recruitment. And it's Act HB 6841, an act concerning firefighter recruitment and retention. And it is advanced by the State of Connecticut Joint Fire Service Council. And it would create a fire service youth program advisory to start to deal more with recruiting kids in high school, develop a public safety curriculum for high school, create full-time coordinator position, create a firefighter recruitment and training coordinator in each of the 5 districts, and create a regional CPAT training facility setup. It's all the things that are on the wish list.
Yeah.
I mean, one by one, it's all there that we said we wanted as part of the tackling our recruiting. And so I'm making a motion, or looking for a motion, I guess I should do it as chair, to endorse HB 6841.
So moved, or second.
Ginny seconded. Now, Chief, you probably know more about. where
So
this
just
is.
that this is, the issue of recruitment and retention and diversity is a statewide issue. It's a nationwide issue. And some of this affects career fire departments, recruitment and diversity goals. Some of it is more relevant to volunteer fire departments. But it's been clear in all of our discussions, for years now, is we need to do a better job developing a pathway for young people to consider and pursue public safety careers, in particular for the fire department. And so there is a joint fire service council that represents all of the fire service organizations in the state of Connecticut, from career, volunteer, instructors, fire marshals, and jointly we have identified a number of legislative priorities for this legislative session, and this is one of them. And we all agree that we need to do better, and we can't do it. And we've had this conversation in this room that it's impossible for individual fire departments to recruit well. Even the largest city departments struggle with the recruitment process because we're taking people off the line to do something that, is a real specialty. So getting some support from the fire academy. There are a number of schools that have developed or are in the process of developing public safety curriculum so that interested students can get EMT, paramedic, Fire One as part of their high school education. Those that don't aspire to a college track, this may be a great opportunity for them to pursue. And getting support to make sure that this runs well and is coordinated through the Connecticut State Fire Academy. And lastly, we know that the CPAT, the physical abilities test that I spoke about earlier, is a real challenge, whether there's a year-round facility or not, being able to train and work out and then experience that CPAT. And this facility would be one of the expected hosts of a CPAT training facility so that prospective candidates could come here and practice on the equipment in anticipation of the test. So I think that this is a very forward-looking set of objectives that we are pushing through this legislative session. And certainly the commission's support of this will be submitted in testimony when it comes up for a hearing.
So this is a full-time paid position though that we're adding to the ranks.
Statewide, not Fairfield. There's a state, we're looking for state funding for these initiatives.
Okay.
State funding for staffing, for the equipment and the setup. Because it would be regional.
I like that. Yeah.
Questions?
Yes. Chief alluded to it. He said that this will be presented to the state body as our opinion or whatever, however you want to phrase it. But who submits that paper? Because that should come from the chairman. There should be something written that goes to the state saying that this is how the fire commission feels, this was our resolution, and that should go as part of the document that goes in.
It's a testimony in front of a legislative. committee.
Right, but you can submit it in writing.
Yes, I can.
Right, but I just want to make sure that that comes from the commission.
Mhm.
Because another one could come from the chief's office, so then there's two of them.
Right.
But that needs to come from the commission.
Right.
And that was the same thing with the one that we passed last month.
Mhm.
And was anything submitted on that one?
No, not yet, no.
So, because all that's going to be coming up for.
Okay, it gets complicated too. Yes,
Okay, understood.
okay.
So it's a testimony.
Yeah.
The chair.
I can submit testimony.
Yep.
Yes, understood. No problem.
I used to go up there, but I'm not sure I'll make the trek.
I'll drive you. I'll get a driver for you.
Last time I went up there for testimony, unfortunately, was with Chief Tracy.
No.
So, no.
Sorry.
Sorry
Well,
about that.
glad to hear that.
So motion, we passed this, did we actually vote?
We
First
I didn't
and
think
second,
so.
we opened it up and now. So it's a discussion, so all in favor.
Right, any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You have a question? With this one, okay, we're done with this piece, yes.
Yeah, the awards, we skipped over that.
Yes.
All business. Yeah.
Yes, Chief, is it you that's gonna update on warrants? Thank you.
Yep, so I've spoken to Lieutenant Smith and the deputy chief. We've confirmed that March 30th would be the appropriate date. The awards ceremony will be held here, most likely at 7 o'clock, so that people getting off duty can come with their families. We will, if that date works for the commission, we will proceed. It's certainly passed muster with our internal review as a available date. There is a Board of Finance final vote on the budget. I do not expect, and typically department heads issues are resolved by that point, and they're looking at a global vote as opposed to individual department issues. So I expect to be available as well. That would be Thursday, March 30th.
We're talking about doing it here?
Yeah, that was a recommendation from Lieutenant Smith.
Anything else?
Is that an evening you did?
Pardon?
7
Oh,
PM.
you said-
7 p.m. Yep.
And we'll send you invites too.
Thank you. That's put on my calendar.
Yeah, good on mine.
Yeah, we picked it as the fifth Thursday, so typically there's not a standing meeting on the fifth Thursday of each month. So that worked out pretty good.
Anything else on awards? Any public comment?
Just
Got
so they need-
2 firefighters, and I don't know whether they want to comment or are just listening. Hearing no public comment, we can hear and consider other business which shall probably come before this meeting, but I don't believe we have any. So therefore, I would hear a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Wow.
That's the rush.
Yeah, really, you're gonna think about it? I had something to say, but, you know. save it.
Hold that thought.
Okay, do I have a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Aye.